So how exactly did Peter go from being dumb as a box of rocks to being one of the most important pillars of the Christian faith? There's a story about Charles Darwin's arrival in Patagonia on a big steel brigantine ship called the HMS Beagle. What does the founder of evolution have to do with Christianity? Well, nothing really, but he can teach us more about the nature of fallen man. Anyway, Charlie and his crew anchored the ship and headed for shore in rowboats. The Patagonians had canoes, and they could clearly see the rowboats coming towards them. They could not see the big steel brigantine on the horizon. Why? Well, because such a large ship was outside the realm of their experience and resulting worldview. A lack of context caused their brains to discard what didn't make sense and focus on what did. Like the Patagonians and a lot of us, Peter discarded what didn't conform to his presuppositions. Still, what he lacked in understanding, he made up for in faithfulness. It didn't matter how many times he failed and was rebuked. Peter loved Jesus and never stopped pursuing him. Like many of us, his greatest strength, namely his stubborn perseverance, was also his greatest weakness. So when and how did Peter finally get it? Well, it was when Jesus' promise was fulfilled and Holy Spirit showed up to lead him and us into all truth. Now, the Bible doesn't describe any sudden revelation on the part of Peter. All we know for certain is that the guy didn't understand a word Jesus said when he was on the earth, suddenly stepped into his role as a leader the moment Jesus departs. Soon after that, everyone in the upper room was filled with the Holy Spirit, and Peter preaches his first sermon. He began with an explanation regarding the bizarre events the onlookers were seeing, followed by a summarization of everything that Jesus taught and did. Now, Peter concludes the sermon with the very first apostolic call to action. I wonder how many people can name that without looking. My point here is that Peter was not transformed through any decision or act of his own will, but in spite of it. He was apprehended by Holy Spirit. The older I get, the more I'm convinced that a truly transformed life is always the fruit of divine apprehension, not an act of human will. Even so, our will often gets us into position to be arrested. Some go willingly, others resist arrest and experience more drama and pain. But more often than not, true surrender takes place amidst our most profound experiences of brokenness. This principle applies to both individuals and nations. Maybe we should be praying for brokenness instead of health, wealth, and prosperity. Maybe chew on that. Maranatha.